Just had lunch. Rice and beans, beans and rice. Freaking meal of champions. Thanks for joining the video. I'm sure you've seen the title. Today we are comparing my financial journey to the advice of Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey is very important to me. I mean, on the bookshelf, you know, I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan. In most scenarios, I think Dave Ramsey is spot on because most of his financial advice isn't even things he's come up with. It's very biblical. But I've got to be honest, I've not followed Dave Ramsey's advice every time to a T. But for a couple of the ways I've failed to follow his advice, I do have reasons. So let's get into it. So let's start with the lowest hanging fruit. What everybody knows about Dave Ramsey, even those who don't follow him closely, is he's super anti-credit card.
It's the biggest scam in freaking history. It's the cigarette of the financial world. It used to be cool, and people are going to acknowledge that it kills you.
Now, we're going to start off good here because neither my wife or I have ever had a credit card. The analogy, I think, is excellent. The credit card is the cigarette of the financial world. I am only 24 years old, relatively young, but at this point especially, I'd be stunned if I ever, for even more than a minute, had to consider getting a credit card. I'm already through several of the hurdles that people say these are the reasons why you have to have a credit card in modern day America to build a good credit score so that you can rent an apartment or buy a house. That's just not true. I'm already there. I can't fathom ever having to go down the road of getting a credit card. Number 2, Dave Ramsey is very anti-car payment. He firmly believes that you should only buy what you can afford in cash.
If you can't pay for it in cash, in total, on the spot, cash on the barrelhead, you can't afford it.
I am Dave Ramsey approved on this subject as well. Going through a history of our car ownership, my wife was given a car by her parents in high school. I was not given a car by my parents, but I did get a car in high school. That was a 1995 Chevy Suburban. I love this car. It was $1,750. I drove it for a year or two and then had to sell it because the college I went to, the College of Charleston, does not like having freshmen having cars. So that was a really sad day for me, but I got rid of that car. I got $1,000 for it, so I was at a $750 loss. The second car I bought was after I came back from the College of Charleston. I came back home, needed transportation, and I didn't have any money. I bought a $300 beater because I just needed transportation. And I looked in my camera roll before I started filming because I wanted to find a picture of it, and I don't even have one. I wish I did have a picture of it because I am proud of that time period of life where the evidence is clearly there that I sacrificed for the betterment of my future. That car ended up getting totaled, and I think I might have actually, I either broke even or made money off that car just because it was so cheap. And then immediately I had to replace that car, and I bought a 2003 Lincoln Town Car, which I also love. I still have that one. This car cost me $3,400. That was at the beginning of 2020. Now I think it's actually worth more because the used car market has gone up so much. So I think I've got a pretty decent history of buying cars at a pretty good value.
Quit trying to be sexy based on your car. A vehicle doesn't do it for you, baby. I'm sorry. So you're not cool based on your car. You're just stupid.
Number 3, Dave Ramsey is consistent on student loans with the idea that you shouldn't borrow money. This is where I failed. My wife, shout out to her, she got a full ride for her 4-year degree. I did not. The freshman year I went to the College of Charleston, that cost me $11,000 on student loan debt. Thankfully, I changed course. I was only there for 1 year before I came home. I went to a 2-year degree route, which I have finished, and I paid for that every step of the way. The student loan that I had left over from that freshman year, that is more than halfway paid, but, you know, we still do owe a little bit of money on that. So since I let Dave down on that, here is a 4th principle of his. Again, something that's very biblical is for a husband and wife to combine finances upon getting married. We did do this. Both of our incomes get direct deposited to the same checking account. We are very in sync with our financial goals. We didn't totally combine finances before we were married, but we were being strategic in our individual decisions. I don't think there's really any better financial move you can make than having a partner in life, a spouse who is of the same mind. For us, we are of the same mind, very in tune with Dave Ramsey's mantra.
If you will live like no one else later, you can live and give like no one else.
Number 5, buying a house. This one is pretty complicated. He's got several rules for what financial position you should be in when you buy a house. And yeah, we didn't do much right according to his plan. According to the Ramsey model, you don't buy a house until you have a fully funded 3 to 6 month emergency fund on top of the down payment. The down payment he recommends is 20%, and of course, none of this would be while you are in any debt. Obviously, we still carry that student loan balance, so that would put us out of contention for buying a house. Also, at the time we bought this house, we did not have a fully funded emergency fund. We did have the $1,000 emergency fund, his baby step 1, but we did take a pretty considerable risk when buying this house, hoping nothing would go terribly wrong in the first year or two, and to this point, it hasn't. We put 12.5% down on this house, which at the time was most of what we had saved up at that point. That was 6 or 7 months after we had gotten married, so we jumped into home ownership together pretty quickly. That was one of our top priorities. Just to save face with Dave Ramsey a little bit, we did take his advice on this part. We did have a professional real estate agent who's been around the block help us through the process. We felt that was very important, given we didn't really know what we were doing. We hadn't done this before. So, we weren't entirely, totally disobedient to Dave Ramsey in our house buying process. And number 6, this one's a big one for me. Dave Ramsey has lots of beliefs on how you should view retirement, plan for it, where your money should be. And yeah, he and I would really disagree on this topic. Dave invests heavy in real estate, which I do. I can't wait till we are in the financial position to do the same thing. But when it comes to his stock market mutual fund investment strategy, it just could not work for me. He's big into 401ks. He's big into what I would consider like government-controlled retirement plans. The whole point of how these things are designed is because the government needs working class people as much of their life as the government can get them to work. That's how the economy works. I'm already at 24 years old. I don't work a traditional job. To me, the act of working is just about making money. So it really opens my time up to be a money maker, not a worker. I would rather spend my time working on how to make money turn into more money than actually earning more money. At this stage, I've made probably $30,000 or $40,000 on Robinhood's investment app. Dave Ramsey is not super supportive of that, especially the way I do it. I'm all single stocks. There's a lot of risk to my investment strategy and what I've had success with. I trade on margin as well, which in a way is trading on borrowed money. He would hate that. Robinhood's also good for me because I do well enough with it that the taxes don't really matter. I would much rather have total control of what my money's invested in, do as well as I can with it, pay the taxes on the income, and at that point, the cash is basically liquid because you can sell at any point and remove the money from the app. In a lot of Dave Ramsey approved retirement scenarios, you're having to wait to a certain age, and that's just not the way I roll. Retirement to me is not an age. It's a financial status. I'm 24 years old. The variables that exist, I'm at least in control over. And so I can change my position if kids come into the equation or anything like that. But I'm closer to retirement at 24 than a lot of people who are doing this traditionally who are 44. So this part of the difference between Dave Ramsey and my thought process would definitely be probably what the Bible has the least to say about. That's why I think it opens up such a big area for he and I to differ. As it stands right now, Dave Ramsey dwarfs me in net worth, and he's got way more listeners and viewers than I do. But you can help me change that.
Bring it. Bring it, Mikey. Bring it. You have done poked the wrong bear. You done pissed off the wrong hillbilly.
I hope you enjoyed this video. I've got more content for you to check out. We'll see you next time.
Ramsey's everywhere, man. Ramsey's everywhere, man. All the stations, he's there, man. He breathes the dead free air, man.